Welcome back to the Temple of Tomes with your host, Indie Comics Jones. Hope you're doing great out there. This is episode 35. Today is June 30th, 2020, last day of June, and it's been a hot month in Texas, let me tell you. Anyway, we're going to talk about the final issue of FairLady. Now, I was kind of reading up on it, and they said they were going to come back, and they actually left this issue in a cliffhanger. But it's been, I think, close to a year since this came out. So I'm not sure if it's coming back. This really struggled to gain readership. I think 4,000 copies only were shipped of this fifth issue. So it must be a real collector's item. Look how bright that moon is, though. Boy, I tell you. It's almost like glaring out the camera here. Wow. Just to let you know, the cover was done by somebody else. And this scene does not exactly ever show up in the book. She's never going to battle against the clawed creature with a sword. No sword. They do show a sword in it, but she's never holding it in a battle position. So anyway, just to start that off, it's just one of those covers again. So let's get into it again. Okay, like you'd think the title would be right in the front. However, the title of this one is, oh, look at that. Give you too much of a sneak preview there. We're going to get there even after the letters. There it is. Ta-da! The Case of the Missing Mistress. Excuse me, The Case of the Missing Murderess. Murderess. And it was murder to read this, let me tell you. Written by Brian Shermer, illustrated by Claudia Balboni. A couple colorists there. The cover here is done by Jeremy Saliba, I guess, Saliba. And of course, 2 editors, but I think they needed a whole army of editors for this one, boy, I tell you. These are produced and flouted. I don't know, is that the right word? Flouted? As one-off mysteries intact. Well, it's hardly the case with these. I mean, not only are they Shaggy Dog mysteries, meaning they give you this whole elaborate story, and then in the end you're like, what? Doesn't make any sense. This one, buying this one, you would have needed to have read a couple of the other issues previous to this because they refer to it. And so they're not complete, intact issues. And this one, like I said, ends with a cliffhanger. Now, one of the tropes of this team is to reuse pictures or drawings. Here, got it right here. And actually, this block of dialogue down here, let me get down there. There's a lot of this small dialogue on black, which drives me crazy. I'm telling you, it's very, very hard for me to read that. This is repeated. This is repeated, and I can go right to this. You can see it's like they're showing us like the last page pretty much right there. And they repeat the dialogue on a different page, but let's go through it just for funsies. A lot of these word boxes, and a lot of times you have to kind of read it a couple times just to figure out who's saying what. And what you're going to find too is the story jumps around. Here she's stuck, starts out, she's on this cliff, and then it goes into these flashbacks apparently because she's bleeding to death on this cliff. And then all of a sudden she's chasing this creature man. And it's never really made clear where this creature man comes from. It's revealed who it is, but it's not revealed why he turns into this. It's like the first really magical thing that kind of happened. And then all of a sudden, next page, they are back at the police station. And she meets up with Romar. That's Ramor, spelled backwards. And he is a fairman. So this is the constable. He's matching these two up to go on the case together to solve the latest mystery, and I can't even remember what it was. Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's so convoluted. Okay, in the first issue, she's Jenner Fouds here. She is looking for a missing woman who has embezzled funds and also taken out a loan and refused to pay it. So she owes two different parties a bunch of money. Now, Jenner, for whatever reason, finds her. She's in a trance. She takes her to this other place. They call it the village. And we never find out exactly where the village is until this issue, 4 issues later. And it doesn't, still, we're not quite sure where it is. So it wasn't part of the village where she was living. Now, when the woman was brought to this village, she stayed there for a while. I'll give you a picture of it. It's never been seen before in any of the other issues, but that's what it looks like. And it's much smaller than the Feld where Jenner hangs out. If you recall, Jenner is the gender swap of Magnum PI, but nothing like Magnum PI at all. I mean, not funny, not likable. Some people must like her. There was a couple letters saying that she was really great. Once again, I couldn't find any other reviews of this comic. And then up here we see this is kind of a brief tale of this is the woman she helped. This is how she found her, and then she brought her to the village here. That was the first issue. Okay, these are all pictures that were used in the first issue here. And there you go. You can see Jenner slapping her for no reason at all. Very unlikable. And as they say right here, but none of this makes any sense. No kidding. The whole book is like this. So we meet this crazy creature down here. It's kind of like a person in a drape with a skull that floats. And all his dialogue, I figured out, is black with white writing, which is not easy to read either. So when they go into an off panel, that's how you can tell that he's still talking. And you can see it up here in this next panel. So all of a sudden it's night, and she's chasing this creature guy again. Strange creature. He's got like claw-like fingers. And what they have discovered early on is that the woman that she helped, this is so confusing, the woman that she helped get to that village and found sanctuary for her has apparently escaped, killed 2 people and a constable on the way out, and also killed one of the people that was looking for her in the first issue, a bookkeeper, or a merchant, I should say. She was working as a bookkeeper. Now here we go. Let's see some more repetitive figure drawing. So we got the repetitive here, crossed arms there, exactly the same pose here. She turns they change the furniture around. Then here, his hands not crossed, and oops, let me see how I do this. Yeah, the fourth and the second is the same exact pose, and the first and the third, same exact posing. And you see this a lot. So they go on this crazy journey, okay, and then they go back. They're at the village and they're questioning everything. And then they go back to the police station. I'm assuming the police station because they don't show this guy coming along with him. This is the constable here. And he says, oh, I'm going to send a constable out to where they found the girl originally. And she says, no, don't bother. And she says, well, I'll wait a couple days and send it. So it's a couple days later. Okay. And there you go. Here's another one where they use the same frame again. They just basically moved her eyes a little bit. So, you know, you do it once in a while, it's fine, but this is like continuous through this whole thing. You just see it over and over again, and it's a little bit irritating. It's like at least have them moving around, picking up something, looking at something. But now and then bang, we're right back into that chase scene again. That doesn't make any sense. And there's this inner monologue going on while they're questioning as well. And you have to figure out who's saying what. And then bang, they're out of the chase again, and they're back at the village. Okay. And then, next page, bang, they're back at the tower, where the wizard tower, where she is the security there. And her friend, the Catman, comes in, and this is the only page he's in, and she says, oh, get ready, we're going to take off. And she actually ditches him because she doesn't want him with him. They're putting him in danger, and this is the big scene. So there's a lot of pages like this where there's very little dialogue, and this one has a little bit of picture at least. But you'll see that Okay, here's another one of your repetitions right here. Great. Now, I actually did like this scene. It was a sequential art. They used the same setting, yet they moved the action along in each panel. So the setting is the same. I'll pull back a little bit. I like the way they did that. I thought that was really good. And she's back with this Romar guy again, who we saw briefly in one of the issues, like for 2 panels, and kind of disappeared. He might have been in another one, I don't recall. And then we're back in chase scene again. And this is, see, it's all out of order, and it's very disconnected, and the clues that are being given here are not helping you figure out what's going on. This is kind of nice, this spiral here, and it kind of shows the progression of them doing the chase down the spiral stairs. Not sure where that is in the village, because it's not that many tall buildings. And then we see the creature slash her and actually wounds her. It's like the first time we've seen her getting wounded. We saw her get bested in a sword fight where once she was disarmed, that was the end of the fight. And then they were best friends. So here's that skull creature again. So this is taking place before this, but you wouldn't know it because you have to read this thing like 3 times just to figure that much out. And then we're back at the village again. And she meets this new guy, and he doesn't really give her any new information. And then this was really annoying to read. Later, and then she comes across, this is like the banker from the first issue. So he pops in for a second as a possible suspect, I guess. So if you hadn't read the first one, you wouldn't know his contribution to the whole storyline. So this is actually an ongoing storyline to a bit, but it turns out this Romar guy she's with, he's got something wrong with him, and I guess he is the lover of the woman that began the whole story, the mistress that went to the crazy place, that was put in the village, that is accused of murder now. And he goes through a change phase coming up. Just crazy. Doesn't really make sense. I'm telling you, this is like the wackiest story. Now what? And he unwinds. He has this bandage on his arm. He starts to unwind it, and that's when all hell breaks loose, and he starts transforming. And they never explain why he's got this. I'm assuming he was in that war of the wastelands they talk about, and maybe somehow he got infected with something, and that's why he didn't want to return to his lover, and then he came back looking for her and broke her out, so to speak, and killed those people when he was in this thrashing form. And they have a big fight. As you can see, it's going on. But she was slashed like 3 pages back. So this is going to happen again. There you go. Another reoccurrent panel. And then they have this woman running up, and they actually have to say who she is, Samanda. She is the one from the first. They have to point her out. I bet the editors made them do that because it is just so unclear where these things pop out. And she runs. It took me about 8 looks at this to figure out what happened. She grabs this guy and pulls him off a cliff that appeared out of nowhere. And they tumble, and it looks like they're falling, but somehow Jenna reaches over and grabs the guy's arm, and it's all spindly, and it looks like it starts transforming or melting. I'm not sure. And then he says to her, "You can't let go. I'm sorry, don't let go." But she can't hold him any longer, or he can't hold on. I'm not sure which it is. And as you can see, he's holding his lover or wife. I'm not even sure. It's never made clear. And ta-da! Awesome. Look at this blackness here. Just, I love it. Just nothing but. And they show Jenna up here straining, but she's let go as the 2 plummet through the ground below, deep in this cliff where we don't even know where this cliff came from. And there's Jenner at the top there. Okay, so if this wasn't enough darkness for you, look at this. 2 more pages of nothing. Now, maybe it's a secret code. Maybe I have to hold it up to a flame or something, and the lemon juice will suddenly make words appear to tell me what this story was. But alas, not to be. And so then we go back to that first scene. And she lays there. She's kind of dying, basically, but she thinks she's going to get help because the constable said he'd be by in a few days. And last line is, maybe he'll find me before the end. Well, he said he wasn't coming here, though. If you read the story closely, he was going to this other place and not this place. So he wasn't going to the village where this is taking place. He was going to this other place where the wife, mistress, lover had been hiding when Jenna first found her. And that is the end of this fantabulous story. I am so glad it's done with. I went 16 minutes on this, man, but it was a hard one to get through. Wow. Like I said, I've said this before, I am not the sharpest tool in the shed. But I felt like I did my due diligence on this. I read it repeatedly. I never have to do that with the other comics. Maybe I have to read them one more time. But this one, boy, I scoured it. I used my magnifying glass looking for things. I couldn't find any kind of clues to help me solve this. I still don't know what happened at the end there, who they were, either one of them really, and what their relationship was, and why they even bothered hiring her. There's some other kind of conspiracies that she's coming up with. It was just a pain in the neck, really, all the way around to read this thing. So it's a not recommend, believe it or not. And that's what we got for today at the Temple of Tomes. Thank you for letting me be your host. This is Indie Comics Jones signing out. Have a good one and be kind to everyone.